What up? All my scientists, my artists, my philosophers, my geneticists, my roboticists, my biologists, my archaeologists, my astronomers. Let's get busy. This has been Busy from the Burbs. Cheer. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ben Busy, broadcasting to you from Osaka, Japan. I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Mr. Sean Watson. Mr. Sean Watson,
What's
how are you
up,
today?
bro?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm chilling.
No doubt. So, man, it's been a while since last we spoke.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, man. So, for those who don't know, Mr. Watson and I served together in the Marine Corps,
Raw.
and we were actually in the same platoon in boot camp.
Yeah.
You remember that?
3045.
3045. Yo. God damn. Do you still maintain contact with? I mean, I'm friends with Perez and like I got a bunch of them on my friends list. Many of whom don't really use Facebook, or because of the way the Facebook algorithm works, I never see their status updates.
Yeah. Me and Perez, we went to Japan together and then we went to California together. So I like to say that's like my longest ongoing relationship. So we still talk just about, I say once a week, but I talk to Butler every once in a while.
No doubt. How's he doing?
He's good. He's got a daughter now. He's back in Mississippi.
Congratulations.
And Dyer just had a kid too.
All right. Congrats to Dyer. That's what's up.
He's coming out to DC pretty soon.
Okay.
Other than that, no, I don't really talk to anybody, which is a shame.
What are you doing right now? Like, what are you busy with? What are you working on?
I got back to DC a couple months ago. I'm trying to get on a police force, but right now just security jobs.
All right, good to go. Yeah, I got a gig that's supposed to start up here, along the same line of work. The thing is, what kind of gets me, I went through the M9 training when I was in the Marine Corps, but literally, I don't know what your experience was, but because maybe it's me being from Massachusetts where they have really tough gun laws, but when I came to the Marine Corps, that was the first time that I ever shot any type of weapon.
We have some of the strictest gun laws in the country here in DC. I had shot a gun, but I'm pretty sure it was illegal to do so. I shot a shotgun like on New Year's Eve, but other than that, yeah, the Marine Corps was the first time that I had really been around like guns and people that knew about guns and all that stuff.
When you were in Cooney and for training, were you able to go on like fan fire? I guess they call it fan fire, where you can just kind of just shoot, not for score, but just to shoot.
Yeah, because being an MP, you have to have that as part of your annual training.
Right.
So we shot in that little indoor range just about every 3 months.
Yeah. I just I'm spot on with the rifle. Like up until like the second course of fire or whatever they call it, I was like top shot on the range when we were in boot camp, but then like I just dropped it when it came to table 2 and all that, like moving targets. I was too concentrated on, cuz they say don't use Kentucky windage, but leading the target is Kentucky windage. Isn't it?
I mean, for me it wasn't. Once I got to the field units, shooting just got way easier. But no, leading the target, it's not exactly the same as Kentucky windage, because Kentucky windage, you're guessing where the bullet's going,
Mm.
and leading is guessing where the target's going, if that makes sense.
All right. So there is some depth to this. Yeah. See, like I said, like my entire time in the Marine Corps was spent dealing with bombs and moving bombs around and putting bombs together and taking bombs apart. Like, I don't know. We just didn't get the training that. I mean, every Marine's a rifleman, yes, but
Yeah.
it was always kind of a foreign concept to me. Like, I can load, perform immediate action to release a stoppage and get my gun back in the fight if the case required it, but I'm not, like, I don't really understand the science. You, on the other hand, with your MOS, you had to deal with firearms on a daily basis.
Yeah. But then I think when I got to the field unit, I got way better at shooting. When I got there, I went from being a marksman shooting on the rifle to like a multiple expert,
Mm-hmm.
and then they sent me over to the weapons and training battalion.
Mm.
I mean, like once you deal with this stuff, it just gets way easier, and then you don't even have to think about shooting.
Right. When you have the M9 holstered, and
Hmm.
you like what constitutes condition 1 for the M9? Does the hammer have to be back? Because you could have a round in the chamber, but the hammer's not back, right?
Yeah, no. Condition one for the M9, it doesn't matter what the hammer's doing. The only time that the hammer matters in terms of conditions is a revolver, and that's that condition two that we never speak about.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, condition 2, which does not apply to the service rifle, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
that's this.
because it's like what, like because it's double action. Like when you pull the trigger on the M9, the hammer goes back with the
Anyway,
trigger pull.
yeah, so it was going to happen anyway, so that doesn't matter. It's just about that round being in the chamber.
Had you encountered anything? I remember during our time there in Japan, there was an incident with a range coach that was negligent and a Marine that was negligent, and there ended up being an ND. Had
Oh,
you?
when he got his third leg.
Yes, yeah. It went like in his ass and out his knee or something.
Hmm.
What kind of fucked up like situations, like, can you remember like anyone besides Briggs pissing himself on the range? Like, what was like one of the most like where you were like, are you really doing this right now? Like,
Um,
situation.
the Brig story
Yeah.
is by far one of the funniest things that ever happened.
Oh man, you were sitting right there with me, right?
I was right across from you.
Yeah.
Can we tell that story? Can we segue into that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so we were shooting on the range back in 2010,
Mhm.
and me and you were on the exact same relay,
Mhm.
and that Cro-Magnon was shooting before you, and he got up, and you came to sit down, and I was shooting,
Mhm.
and you just would not sit down.
Oh,
and,
right, yeah.
and they were like, sit down and shoot. And you were like, nope, not gonna. And they were like, why not? And you just pointed to the ground, and the ground was wet. Where the coach like put his fingers down and wiped it and smelled it. And he was like, this is piss. And he looked at me and he was like, did you pee? And I'm like, how could I possibly have peed in a rainbow to get that spot wet? And he's like,
Right.
and then he turns and he looks at Briggs and he's like, stand up. And Briggs stands up and he is completely soaked.
Yeah.
And at that exact moment, Staff Sergeant Shute, I know you remember him.
Yes, I do.
Chief Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant Shute walks over
Mhm.
and he said, Briggs, did you piss yourself? And Briggs was like, yes, sir. He's like, I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad because you have dedication. That's what you need to be a Marine.
Oh,
Dedication.
right. Yeah, you spun it
And
positively.
he broke into that long speech about how Briggs was dedicated and he would put rounds down range and everyone should try to be like him and he
Mm.
was going to grow up and be a hero. And he says, "Let me look at your shot book, Briggs." And Briggs hands him the shot book and he looks at the shot book and he's like, "You missed every single shot.
Oh.
You pissed on yourself and missed every single shot.
Yo.
You kidding me?" And Sergeant Sir, he who shall not be named,
Mm.
and freaked the fuck out. I'm sure he beat Briggs when they got to the bathroom, but he ran him all the way down there,
Oh my God.
which was a no-no because you're not supposed to run on the range. But in that case, nobody cared because it was like, yeah, he deserves that.
Yeah. Oh my God. He was like, with all due respect to Briggs, I'm sure that he's grown a lot since then. I'm sure that if he listens to this podcast, he might be a little embarrassed. Of course, it's good to have shame about something like that. But, I mean, I just remember him being one of the most incompetent. Like, he was just, like, in a daze, man. Like, he was, like, had no wherewithal to him whatsoever. His mind was gone. Like,
Yeah,
he would walk around with one flip flop on, you know what I mean? One shower shoe on. Like
I
we looked in his what is it? His shaving kit or whatever. And
uh
he had like there was no toothpaste in there. There was no type of soap or anything. Like this dude was just going through the motions.
I just remember when he hurt Perez and he bragged about it. He's like, "Yeah, I hurt Perez," and it was because he did the move like completely wrong.
What in
But he,
McMap?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Perez, because we were rack mates, he just looks down at me one night and he's like, "I'm gonna kill him." And like I remember the next time we did McMap, like he found some reason and he just like kneed him in his throat, and he just looked at me like, "I got him," and I was like, "Yeah."
Yo, there was one time we were in the McMap pit and friggin' he who shall not be named, was like, "Hey, Peterson, get over here," and it was like, basically, was putting me up against the biggest dudes, and he put me up against Perez, and Perez
Uh-huh.
was like a much bigger dude than me. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like that motherfucker's big, and all I could do, all right, because Perez was going hard. I mean, I think he was probably maybe there was some sympathy for me, so he was like, "Well, this is kind of fucked up." So maybe he wasn't going full strength, but all I could do was like keep close distance, and it was like riding a bull, dog. Like that was the only way that I could decrease the lethality of the attacks was to like keep as close to him as possible in the movement, and was able to successfully get through that. But yeah, they were fond of playing games like that. But
can I ask a question
yeah,
that I've wanted to know for 5 years?
go for it.
Who is Zer?
Zer. Zer.
Who is Zer?
Yeah. It was because like yeah, I mean your voice is just so hoarse going through those evolutions, like being there for the 13 weeks. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Who was it that said that? That was one of the DIs, right?
It was one of the DIs, and they asked it like the last week, and it was like I knew I wasn't the only one who heard it. It was like, "Peterson, who the fuck is Zer?" And you were just like,
Yeah, I have no like good answer for that. They're like that's just the sound of my voice, sir. Oh
It
man.
was hilarious. Who is Zer?
That those we did everyone knows, for those who don't know, like you go to Parris Island or the depot in San Diego, the recruits go through the training process that's boot camp that culminates in the crucible, and then there is basically like this day at the end, which is like your farewells kind of, and all of the the DIs sit up there and like all of the recruits, whoever has really good impressions, because you develop impressions of the DIs as you're going through. They'll come up and they put on like an impromptu kind of comedy show or whatever. And I just remember um, the what was his name? Sergeant Gentry, and people were doing impressions of him. He had a really unique, booming voice. I don't know how he did it, but he would speak like from his diaphragm, and
Yeah.
it would resonate through like every water molecule in the air. It sounded like booming. Um, definitely, definitely would be a good opera singer. Just saying.
Did I tell you about the time I saw Stevens?
Stevens. No, no, that's right. I remember. Yes, I remember Staff Sergeant Stevens. He was a
Okay.
beast,
He
man.
he was a gunny, right?
Yeah.
This is when okay, and we're at Pendleton, and he runs off base, and I saw him run off base, but it didn't register in my head who it was,
Mm-hmm.
and so I go relieve the person at the gate,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm standing there, and I see this huge figure running towards me,
Right.
and as it gets closer, I realize who it is. And I'm thinking to myself, that was 4 years ago. At this point, I'm not scared of this man.
Right. Right.
I'm bigger, I'm
You
stronger.
have a weapon on you at this point.
Yeah, I have a weapon on me. He's not gonna do anything. And you remember how he never actually spoke; he just whispered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's out of breath from running, and he says, "Hey, devil, I'm Gunny Stevens." I'm like, "Oh
Did
shit,"
he?
because he
He
sounded
remembered you?
No, he didn't remember me, but when he said it, he sounded just like I could remember him in my ear telling me how he was gonna kill me. like I can remember being in Parris Island and him being in my ear telling me how he's gonna skin me and hang me from the raft.
What the?
He's just like, "Am I good?" And I'm like, "You're so good.
Yeah. Right.
like
You're
just
younger.
get away from me,
All those
please."
emotions came rushing back to you,
Yeah,
right?
it was scary.
Man, it was like within the first 10 minutes of receiving, and Sergeant Hernandez, who,
You shall
uh,
not be named.
oh yeah, he who shall not be named, um, was had me in big gear, doing mountain climbers, saying, I'm gonna take your soul, like give me your soul. I was like, I made the mistake of saying something to the effect of like, whatever, you can have it, because like I was never really of the mind that to believe in these kinds of things, and that just made it worse. But
You can have it.
yeah, man, oh, those
I
are
remember I saw him at the gym,
in
and
Pendleton.
yeah,
Hmm.
and he saw me staring at him, and he walked up to me and he was like, "Watson?" I'm like, "Staff sergeant." He was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, some fucked up shit happened, man." I was like,
Ah,
"Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, but it's over now." It's like, "Yeah," and then we just talked like we were good friends, but it was like that first couple seconds of feeling each other out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a little awkward right there before you had to,
Yeah.
you break that ice. Yeah, ours was a unique experience, and I don't know if I really would have changed anything. If going back and really like thinking about it, I don't know. Like maybe I just say that now cuz like I'm safe, cuz like I'm away from the experience. But yeah, I don't know. I think that was exactly what I signed up for.
I think we have Stockholm syndrome.
That's yeah, we definitely do. There's like latent Stockholm syndrome. How long does this syndrome last? Jeez. Oh man. What else? What else is going on? You see any good movies lately?
I have not, but I am waiting for Rocky 7.
All right. Yeah, that looks good. That's
So
Wait a minute. That's Apollo, right? Or Creed?
Creed, Creed, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to see that.
Mhm.
Um,
I'll just call it what it is.
did you hear that Curb Your Enthusiasm might get another season and a movie?
If it does, I will subscribe to HBO. I was
Mm,
just talking about how I don't want cable, but if that happens, I'll get cable.
Mm-hmm.
and I'll go to the movie. I'm a
Yeah.
supporter of anything Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld are doing.
Yeah, it's hilarious. In terms of comedy, I think they did more for, I guess, not even just situational comedy, but comedy in general than anyone had, like, within, like, they were, like, for the 90s, that was, like, whatever the Chappelle Show did for, like, the 2000s, like, 2000 to 2010 or whenever it was active, Seinfeld did for comedy in the 90s. And
Yeah,
then Larry David's just a freaking master.
yeah,
Did you see him on SNL where he did the Bernie Sanders impression?
I did. I thought it was funnier when Trump was on and he screamed out "liar." I was like, why would you do that, Larry? And he was like, well, someone in the audience said if I called you a liar, give me $5,000. So I did
Oh
it.
man, I have to go back to that and see it. I didn't catch it. I guess they bring Larry. Larry was on how many times? Just the one?
No, because he did the Bernie Sanders once, and then when Trump came, he did it again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's interesting given the history that Larry David has with SNL. Have you heard him
yeah.
tell that story?
I haven't, but I could imagine that those two would bump heads.
Do you remember the episode of Seinfeld where George quits his job and then goes into work on Monday like nothing happened and like sits down in the meeting?
Yeah.
That is loosely based a story on the story of Larry David quitting SNL. So Larry David is like having trouble getting some of his sketches on, and I'm not sure like how the ecosystem works there at SNL, but apparently like you write sketches and then they check them out, and if Lorne Michaels doesn't like it, like it doesn't get the green light or whatever. And
Right.
Larry had been trying so hard to get his sketches on, and if he got a sketch on, it would be like the last sketch or whatever. Like he wasn't getting any prime time. So he was just fed up with the whole process and everything, and he quits in, you know, over the top Larry David manner, as you would expect him to quit, just like, you know, George does on the show. And when after he quits, he gets home and he realizes, like, wait a minute, I got rent, like I have like I have bills that I have to pay. This wasn't a good idea. So on Monday, he goes in and they do the writing circles or the writers meeting, and he goes in there, and people are wondering like, "What are you doing? You quit, Larry? Like, why are you here?" And he's like, "Ah, nah, it was just a joke." Like, and he sits down in the meeting, and Lorne Michaels is like going around the meeting room, like taking roll or whatever he does, like getting input from people. And he comes to
Right.
Larry David, and there is that scene that takes place in Seinfeld between the boss and George Costanza, like actually took place between Lorne Michaels and Larry David.
I can imagine that.
What's your favorite Seinfeld episode?
Mm.
Or what's one that comes to mind? Because there's so many. I mean,
Uh, I mean, you don't want to be cliche and say like Lord of the Manor or the Soup Nazi, but
hmm.
I don't know.
What about Curb?
Curb definitely when the Palestinian chicken place opens.
Oh my God, the
That-
Palestinian chicken place.
Take that off. Don't touch me, Larry. Don't you ever. That was hilarious.
I like the episode where Larry has some like jersey, some like old baseball player's jersey, and he loses it. He misplaces it, and he's driving around with what was his name? What's the black actor's name?
What is his name? I can
Louis
Leon.
The character Leon, portrayed by
JB Smooth.
J.D. Smooth. Um, they're driving around, and Larry sees someone with the same jersey, And Leon's like, "Stop the car, Larry! Stop the car!" And like runs over and basically robs this poor guy of his jersey because Larry thinks that he stole it. And then later on in the episode, they see another person with the same jersey walking around. That was a funny episode. I like the episode where Leon gives Larry the pep talk after Larry was accosted by the skinhead in the dentist's office.
Oh, bring the ruckus to that ass, Larry.
Yeah, yeah. Open that ass, step inside, close the door behind you.
Throw pizza can all in that ass.
Yeah.
Larry was here.
Yeah. And then leave it open so he knows that you've been there or some shit. And Larry's all like hyped up about that. I like the fact that Larry David is like he took what should be rather kind of like a crippling mental disorder, neurosis, or like whatever, excessive compulsive disorder or whatever it is, his neurotic behavior. He took what should be a negative and flipped it and made it a positive.
The most positive.
Yeah, like with the whole like respect for wood when Elaine puts her drink down on the table. You have no respect for wood, Elaine.
I respect wood.
Yeah. Oh, classic. Let's see what's going on in the news here.
Oh my God, can we talk about Donald Trump?
Yes. Yeah, what's the latest on Donald Trump? Wait, he's talking about Ronda Rousey?
No, not that. Donald Trump is advocating for marking Muslims so we know who they are.
What? That's some 1943 Nazi Germany shit.
And how is no one realizing that?
That's crazy. Yeah, there are quite a number of people that I've encountered that have this, I don't know, this psychological thing when it comes to that.
It's ridiculous. Like the amount of xenophobia going on right now is
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Like the mayor of Roanoke wrote an open letter to his constituents.
Mm-hmm.
And in it he says, in the 1940s after Pearl Harbor, FDR put all the Japanese Americans in internment camps and just leaves it as an open thought.
Like it's a good thing.
Yeah, like it was a good thing. It's like, are you serious right now? Like, I can't believe that this stuff is even being floated around as if it could possibly happen.
Right. Yeah, it's insanity.
It's happening here every day, and it's just like, this is crazy.
It is crazy, and it's like as Americans, I would like to think that the core majority of Americans are good-natured people. I mean, you could say that they're God-fearing or whatever. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a religious thing, but that there are good people that disagree with, like, the whole Fox News take on it, which is, mark the Muslims, make them sew a whatever crescent moon onto their sleeve or whatever, like that kind of sentiment. I like to think that the vast majority of Americans are reasonable people who can kind of see past this, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a weird time to be an American at this point.
Every time that I turn on the news, I'm just disappointed. Like, how I don't lean towards any political party, but
neither do I.
I cannot in good conscience say that I would consider being a Republican when I look at Ben Carson and Donald Trump as their front runners and the stuff they say every day.
Right.
It's just like, this is crazy.
Right. And like what you're supposed to do in situations like this, like when John McCain was asked by one of his supporters at a rally whether he thought that Obama was a Muslim or was
stopped him immediately.
Yeah.
We're not even going to do that. Don't do that.
Right, exactly. Like he shut her down instantly,
Yeah.
Like that's the honorable thing to do. Now, me personally, I'm not saying I'm a fan of John McCain. I'm just saying that like
that was the Yeah.
Yeah, that's the correct course of action to take when you encounter something like that. As opposed to, like with Trump, when the guy's like, "Oh, they're making terrorist camps out here, blah, blah, blah." Not to make a southern accent to it, because it could be a rural, someone from Maine as well. I mean, these people
Yeah.
are everywhere. His response was, yeah, well, we're going to look into that. We're
I
looking into a lot of things. We're going to look into that as
I
well.
remember.
Like, jeez. Defying Obama, the U.S. House passes a bill to slow Syrian refugees. So, as soon as the Paris terrorist attack happened, you already had right wing blogs uh, foisting upon people the idea, the notion that actually these attacks were perpetrated by Syrian refugees with Syrian passports. Now that all the dust is settled, it turns out that none of them are Syrian refugees. None of
Right.
them are Syrian nationals.
Right.
Here we have the U.S. House passing a bill to slow the Syrian refugees. It's amazing how quickly Americans forget their own history. It wasn't more than, what was World War II, 75, approaching 80 years ago, that
Hmm.
the Jewish people who were coming over seeking asylum were denied asylum in 1939. Anne Frank was denied asylum in the United States.
Right.
I mean, it just.
It, it doesn't make sense to me. It's like I can go on this topic forever, but you got on the one side you got all these people that have never been in the military or done anything military related saying, "Oh yeah, you know what? Tell ISIS to bring it on and I'm ready for a fight."
Mm-hmm,
And then turn around in the same second and say, "But don't let any refugees here." So
mm-hmm.
it's like you're contradicting yourself there.
Right.
And it's like even if we just look at straight statistics,
Mm-hmm,
statistically,
mm-hmm.
you're crazy for thinking that these refugees are going to come and blow America up. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Right, yeah. From a statistical perspective, it doesn't even wash with the math.
No,
Like, at least have the math on your side if you're going to make a claim like that, right?
something. Like they have nothing because the one thing that they were grasping at was saying, well, one of those, at least one of those people in Paris was a refugee,
Mm-hmm.
and now we know that that's not factual at all.
Right.
So, and then this is it, I was talking about this earlier with my friend. It was like you got these were the same people that 2 weeks ago were saying, well, all lives matter, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like then you had the refugees say, "Hey, we heard you say all lives matter. Well, we got this crazy group killing all of us. Like, can we come over there for a little bit?" And then people are just like,
All
"Nope."
lives matter except for you.
And
Sorry.
like, are
What
what's in your mouth? Are you chewing on crow right now? Like, what is that? What
what
is?
what do you think about all lives matter? What do you think about people that say that versus Black Lives Matter? What's your take on that?
I mean, I get it. I get it from both sides. I am was however you decide to say it a member of the law enforcement community, so I get wanting to defend yourself in that aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but statistically right now it
Mm.
seems to be that black folks are getting it just a little bit more than everyone else is,
Yes.
and saying black lives matter is just pointing that fact out and saying, hey, is there something we can do about that?
Right.
it's
Exactly.
not it's not there to make anyone else feel bad.
Right. It's not meant to be divisive.
Yeah, it's not meant to do that. It's I think the greatest analogy that anyone said is like, yeah, well, if someone has a lymphoma society meeting, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to run in there and say, testicular lives matter too.
Right.
you,
Exactly.
you wouldn't do that.
the
Like,
the best way the best summation that I saw was Matt McGorry, who plays the the prison guard on Orange Is the New Black, the guy
Yeah,
that impregnated the female. He says people who get offended. What did he say? People who get offended, something like, just because you say save the rainforest doesn't mean you're saying fuck every other different type of forest.
exactly.
You know, and people don't understand that, so they get kind of, and they're not privy to the unique uh, experience of the African American. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't
Yeah,
encountered the subtle racisms. And with me being in Japan, I'm not saying it's comparable. You lived here for a while and had some experience out in town.
but you stick out. I get what you're saying.
I stick out. I get looked at. There's just a constant barrage of subtle slights and subtly racist
Yeah,
reactions.
yeah.
What?
I remember being over there, and people were like, "Oh, you take me to the store. You show me how to buy clothes," and it's like,
Mm,
why? Oh, you
yeah.
so cool, style man. Style man. Like I'm wearing sweatpants right now. It's like just because they would assume stuff about you just because of what they saw on TV. But for the first couple months that we were over there, everyone that was Japanese assumed that I was Mexican.
Really?
Yeah, which I did not understand at all.
Maybe they had like, that's okay. Did you have to like correct them? Were you
Yeah,
like, no, I don't speak Spanish?
there was a dude in an American national who was wanted. He lived out in town, but they didn't want him to come on base, and he was Hispanic. And one of the Japanese security guards at the gate with me, he was like, "Oh, Mexican, like you wasn't son?" I'm like,
Mm.
what? You you Mexican? Me Mexican? No, no. Like I don't know. Like I guess they didn't realize that like black people came in lighter shades.
I see. Yeah. They
Like
were
I
used
don't.
to that Nigerian black, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but yeah, I. But after I corrected a couple people, like everyone got it. So
All right. But you had to like make that distinction. I encountered this kind of like, there's no other word to describe it other than abject ignorance among the Japanese people, and I got much love for the Japanese people, don't get me wrong. Um, but they seem to like be in their own bubble of their own world, and sometimes they don't even have knowledge of their own history, and it strikes me as so bizarre. Because coming from the United States, we're taught about, we at least know at least I know that you and I both know like the last five presidents. You know what I mean? The,
yeah, but I mean, let's be fair. I don't think that we count for the vast majority of
Yeah,
America.
see, that's what I'm afraid, man. Is it idiocracy? Has it become that?
It's coming, man.
You have Donald Trump running for president of the United States. He's basically Biff Tannen. I think I was the first person on the internet, I will take full credit for it, who compared Donald Trump to Biff Tannen, but I guess it came out later that the writers said that they modeled the character after Donald Trump. Um,
After that, write that.
yeah,
I said, what if that was cool? Like, yeah, we should just say we did that the whole time.
right. And now it's like, thanks a lot, Back to the Future writers, for potentiating this horrible possible future reality. Now we are saddled with the possibility of Donald Trump becoming the president of the United States. It's frightening.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't have a lot because I haven't been back to the States in a while. Like, what's the day to day like? Has it changed much? Like, do you really encounter this kind of idiocracy
Well,
regularly?
well, you got to remember here, like being in DC and DC area is like a microcosm of everywhere
Mm.
because everyone comes here.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have rallies for different things every day, so you see all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you see the smart people, and you're like, yeah, that's hope for the future. and then you see these dumb people, and you're just like, that can't be where we're going.
Right.
And then you see these politicians, and you're just like, I wonder what they really think about these things,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like they say this stuff, and it's like you can't honestly believe it.
Right.
So I mean, just in everyday interactions with people, it could go either way.
Mm. Yeah, like some of the stuff that Ben Carson has said or was reported to have said, like he got a full scholarship to West Point, or he talked to General Westmoreland, or that the pyramids are for grain storage, or whatever it is. Sometimes I have to wonder. I stop and think, wait a minute, is he just much more intelligent than people give him credit for, and he's trying to win over the evangelical vote, because they turned out heavy. That's how Bush got elected, was through the evangelicals. Is he
Yeah,
trying to work that same angle?
I don't know. I mean, the thing about West Point is stupid because everyone has a full ride scholarship to West Point.
Right.
Every American has that scholarship if
Right.
they choose to pursue it.
Right.
So it's like you weren't special for that.
Right.
But I don't know. Ben Carson is a Seventh Day Adventist, which does put him in a special bracket of Christianity.
What is the Seventh Day Adventist? I'm not even familiar with like how it's different than whatever.
Just the different things that they believe. Like, so I actually was raised as a Seventh Day Adventist till I was about 4.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't allowed to watch TV Fridays and Saturdays. We
Why?
were, to the life of me, I do not know.
All right.
I think I asked my mother one time, and she was like, "God rested on the Sabbath."
I see.
We did too. So we weren't allowed to use any electricity. We were allowed to use like lights, but that was about the end of it
Mm-hmm.
in terms of electricity. We didn't eat any meat. We went to church all day on Saturday.
So it's a vegetarian religion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh.
Mm-hmm. We went to church all day on Saturday. Um, it was just little. It's different.
Mm. Is it like, do they have like kind of a unique cosmogenesis, meaning like is there a unique explanation for the way that the world came to be? Are there additional holy books, like with Mormons you have like whatever, the Book of Mormon? Was
The
there
collect.
like a separate biblical text?
Uh, I don't. I know that it was founded by a woman, and she has some extra text.
Mm-hmm.
You're not forced to read them, but it's
Mm-hmm.
good to know them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I didn't. I'd stopped going when I was 4, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know
Mm-hmm.
what they are or anything like that. But
Right.
yeah, it was very strange.
Mm-hmm.
My mother does it very rarely. Like she'll say some stuff, and it's just like, where did you get that from?
Mm-hmm.
But that's where. But
Right.
yeah, it's they're very it's very small things, but when you notice them, you'll never not notice them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Right.
So
Yeah. Um, I was born and raised Catholic, but it was always lay Catholic. By the time I was born, my mother was sufficiently like disconnected from the church. I think that a lot of people have a falling out with religion when they may experience a great trauma in their life. Like in the case of my mother, it would have been the death of my grandfather. The notion that if there was a God and miracles did happen, then my grandfather, my Pepe, as they say, as my mother's family is all French Canadian, would still be alive. And that had a lot to do with her disconnecting from the church. So by the time I came around, it was like, okay, you're going to go to First Communion or baptism, First Communion, and confirmation. But we didn't go to church on Sundays. We didn't, we didn't do any of those things that you would have to do in order to be, seen as a devout Catholic or whatever.
Right.
But I think that this is a good thing, and I think that over time, I'm not saying that religious beliefs shouldn't be respected and that people should be able to believe whatever the hell they want to believe, but I think that we should be encouraging critical thinking about these things because let's be honest. I mean, or like the memes say, there's like a picture of the space shuttle taking off, and they're like, science, you can't pray this shit into space, right?
Right.
There comes a point where it's like, okay, let's do away with superstitious beliefs and let's use the scientific method to actually find out what the fuck is going on.
No, I mean, as science has progressed, it's little by little chipping away at everything
Mm-hmm.
that religious blowhards believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, explain this. Oh, well, I can't. Well, I can. Science. Boom.
Right.
And you just quickly shut them up.
Right.
But yeah, I think in just about every future utopia that's ever been written about,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think religion exists, and I think that's very telling.
Right. Yeah. Um. All right. So in other news here, Subway's Jared is off to prison.
And do you know what Jared said to the judge?
No.
He said, "What are you going? What about my wife? She's going to be a single mother." And the judge said, "You left her $7 million. I feel like she'll be fine." So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, Jared, that was a nice try.
What a weasel. I mean, but what about my wife? She's gonna be a single mother. Like, you had sex with kids, bro.
Like,
Like,
bruh, you weren't worried about her then. Don't pretend to be worried about her now.
right. 15 years and 8 months on child. Oh, I guess, yeah, child porn charges and traveling across state lines for commercial sex with a minor. He was
So
paying these kids for sex.
I don't think they ever actually proved that he went through with the actual act.
Okay.
But they knew that he was watching and buying the porn.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think, like, if, well, they weren't going to do it, but if they actually let him cross those state lines and got him in a room with a kid, then maybe they could have pursued that angle further. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got him on what they got him on, and hopefully, some kids come forward and say this happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe their parents are stopping them. I don't know how that works,
Mm.
but
All
eventually,
right. Yeah.
eventually we'll find out
Well,
what.
that's the thing. Like, how many potential cases, were settled out of court that no one is going to hear about? Like, I mean, in the case of someone like Bill Cosby, where you're dealing more with adults, like the truth is more because there aren't so many intermediaries. When you're dealing with kids, like the intermediary is their parents,
Yep.
which are, I don't know, like I don't mean to cast aspersions on the parents, but if your kid is ending up potentially getting raped or abused, maybe you need to take a look at your parenting because you're obviously not on Overwatch. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't mean to cast aspersions on these parents. They could have had no idea.
How
But
how how does that happen? Honestly, how does that happen?
yeah, like how does that happen? If
Because
that were
hey,
my kid, I would never forgive myself and I would probably go to jail for murdering Jared.
yeah, I mean, they say that these kids that he was watching were around age 12. If
Mm.
your kid's like free reign at age 12, you're a shitty parent. Let's just call
Right.
it what it is.
Yeah.
And if you're not a shitty parent, then you knew it was going on, and then you're just a shitty person.
Yeah. And you're
So
culpable as well. Like,
yeah, so there's no way around that.
yeah.
But eventually, we'll find out what the truth is behind that too.
What was your response when you heard the allegations against Bill Cosby?
Um, See, I don't who 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 among us really had not heard those before?
That's what I heard, was that in comedy circles, it had been known for some time that Bill Cosby was maybe not someone you wanted to trust your girlfriend with alone.
Well, not. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I remember hearing about that as a kid. You know, like it wasn't. It wasn't like, oh, Bill Cosby's a rapist, but it was like, you know what they said. You know, like Bill Cosby. They said he does this stuff. You know.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, like even looking back in the shows, you know, when he had the magic barbecue sauce,
Oh my God, that episode.
and he put the stuff in the sauce and gave it to the women, and the women all of a sudden were turned on and wanted to be with their men. You know.
Or when he had the whole bit in his stand-up act about Spanish Fly.
Lie, yeah. So it's like, and I mean, these women have been coming forward for years before this.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until Hannibal Buress said something that the rest of them came forward. But it was like these stories were always out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a combination of Hannibal Buress saying what he said and then Judd Apatow piggybacking it.
Mm.
And then it became like a big story, you know?
What does this do to the legacy of Bill Cosby? Because, like, and we have to talk about Michael Jackson. We don't have to, but I mean,
But you can go there too. I mean, I think you have to realize the difference between Cliff Huxtable and Bill Cosby.
mm,
Then I think you also have to learn to appreciate the works of the man versus the man himself.
mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
um, I'm never not going to find. Uh, I'm never not going to find the Cosby Show fun. Always going to find it funny. You know,
mm-hmm,
because I recognize the difference between Heathcliff and Bill. You know, they're
mm-hmm.
not the same person. It's just not. Um, yeah, I mean, moving forward, it sucks that he'll never actually go to prison. So this will always be a talking point. Like
Mm.
he'll never go to trial, so we'll never find out exactly what happened. It will always be a he say he says she says situation.
Mm.
So I mean that we'll never know what happens in terms of that, but
Right.
I think that will always that's just gonna have to be in on the person.
Right. There was one case that was still within the statute of limitations that he could be brought up on charges against. I guess some incident in 2014 or 2013, something like that. 2012. But the rest of them, yeah, we're not going to know conclusively. And it's the same thing. What pains me with Michael Jackson is wondering, like, even if I did know beyond a shadow of a doubt whether he did or he didn't, would it change my opinion of the works, like you said? How do you separate the artist from the art in judging that art, or how you apprehend that art, how you consume it, how you respond to it, how you react to it? I
In
don't know.
terms of Michael Jackson, he went to court. He was found not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much ends it for me.
Right.
You know.
But I
Uh,
mean, OJ was found not guilty too.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, are we saying that there are holes in the justice system? Yeah, I'll agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I honestly don't know.
Mm.
I never went to Neverland. I don't know what was going on with him and those kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is not about you. You're not even here right now. If you can hear that in the background, my friend Rico's here. Locally well-known artist, Suave the artist. You can
No doubt.
check out his Instagram.
What kind of art does he make?
Uh,
I wanna put a break in this podcast. We're no longer talking about Michael Jackson, okay?
okay,
This is
cool.
okay. We're talking about a cool artist from DC, one of Sean Watson's friends named Rico. What kind of art does he make?
He does paintings,
Nice.
tattoos, videos. Do you want to introduce yourself? You can do. You want me to be a hype man? Okay, no, he can do just about anything. The dude is
What's his Instagram?
Suave the artist.
Swab, SWAB. Oh,
S
Suave,
yes,
SUAVE.
SUAVEDARTIST.
Wait a minute, say it again.
Suave, so SUAVE
Mm-hmm.
DAARTIST.
Okay. Suave the artist. Check him out on Instagram. SUAVEDAARTIST. Good to go. We're nearing the end of the program, Sean Watson. I want to thank you very much for coming on, man.
No problem.
If you were entertained or educated by this podcast, please reach out, click the PayPal link, and donate. We're coming out of the pocket, out of our own pockets, in order to make this happen. We want to get it to the point where it's sustainable. What are your plans going into the future now? You say you're applying to you're working security positions and applying to police departments. Is it hard to get onto the DC Police Department?
You got to go through the whole background check, but
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't been hard so far, especially with the military background.
You
But
still have secret. You still have clearance from your Marine Corps days, right?
yes, I do.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise. So I mean that's good for 10 years. So
Yeah,
best of luck with that. I'm not sure what the competition's like, but having spent 4 or 5 years in the Marine Corps, I'm sure you'll have no problem
yeah.
get accelerating to the head of the class or whatever.
But me and Rico, we will start our own podcast, and hopefully, you'll do ours.
Hell yeah! You
All
guys got
right.
a name for it?
We haven't even started pre-planning,
Okay.
so we just have an idea out there.
All right, good to go. Yeah, I would love to be a part of it, man. Let me know. We'll start a constellation and we can cross promote to help. You know, I don't know what is it? Improve. What is it like? Raise the profile of both of our podcasts. We got to stick together. Power in numbers.
You know it.
All right, Sean Watson. Thank you very much again for coming on the program. We'll check you next time. Check out Suave the Artist on Instagram. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. We'll check you next time. World peace.